Sure. Well, look forward to giving my keynote at the end of this panel. So I don't know, what do you call a keynote at the end? It's like the end note, I guess, right? So some of the comments that have been made are, I'll try to state them in a different way, but real estate is driven by demographics. We have huge demographic trends in medical. I'm in the medical real estate industry, mainly focusing on MOBs, medical office buildings, which are you probably use them, but some of you may not know what that kind of building type is. But it's really an outpatient healthcare delivery type of building, and it's really where healthcare has been going for many decades. It's accelerating the outpatient healthcare way of treating almost anything from clinical to surgeries. So we think that there's probably no end in sight, and it's pretty remarkable what can be done on an outpatient basis format. And I'll just give you a little anecdote. I was having dinner with a friend a few weeks ago, and I hadn't seen him in a while. And he lives in Florida. I'm in the Bay Area. And I said, "What's going on in your life?" "Well, I had a triple bypass 3 days ago." I was like, "Well, that's interesting. Well, why are you having dinner with me?" That's pretty unusual. And he said, "Well, it was non-invasive. They used a Da Vinci machine. It was totally outpatient. An hour of prep work, an hour for the operation, an hour for recovery. The next day he was cleared to fly." So that's what can be done today. That's not science fiction in the future. That can be done actually today. So a whole range of procedures and surgeries that just a few years ago were totally in a big urban hospital can be done in an MOB in a arguably a cleaner, more efficient, more preferable environment. So the whole experience of healthcare is very important too, particularly for more affluent consumers. And so I think there are many trends driving real estate healthcare, but the consumer, the patient experience is a big part of that. Another part of it is technology. So I alluded to what equipment was used in this operation. It's a Da Vinci machine. Just maybe 10 or so years ago, a lot of technology was very centralized. It was fixed to the ground. It's much more extensible now. Things that, if you can remember 20 or so years ago, if you're old enough, the there used to be an MRI, it's called an MRI machine, and that was a very expensive piece of equipment, and it was very centralized, and usually there's kind of one per city. But now it's almost ubiquitous in a lot of hospitals, and more of that is, technology in general is going to the MOB format. So it's cheaper, it's easier to use, and doctors see a huge competitive advantage in using technology to not just for profitability, but for greater volumes. And so, the old model of, decades ago where a doctor would spend a lot of time with you has gone more to a mass of volume kind of a business, and the locus of a lot of that has been at the MOB level. So, demographics were mentioned. We're an aging population. The baby boomers are retiring in record numbers. They're living longer than ever. And we'll see an explosion of healthcare in the next couple of decades. Unfortunately, when people get older, they don't get healthier. And so clinical visits really go up tremendously. And then a couple of other trends are in terms of this class as being an investable asset class. It's still really niche-y. It's certainly, as Kevin mentioned, it exhibits lower correlations, higher returns in general, more stability. It's also very good. It performs very well in a recession. I'd say it's not recession-proof, but recession-resistant. So it did very well in the last recession. Revenues actually grew, employment grew in the medical sector. And so these are things we like, and it's a great, we think it's a very good part of a portfolio, diversified portfolio. It's also not a small sector for real estate. In terms of our economy, healthcare is almost 20% of GDP, and it's been the biggest single employment generator of any economic sector. And it's over about 1.5 trillion roughly in value. And MOBs, our sector, comprises about 400 billion of that. So It's big, it's growing, it says all, all the characteristics that you'd want in an investable asset class, and it's not quite overbought as the other main sectors in real estate, I think, have been over the last 2 to 3 years.